Hey guys, welcome to Wrestling Daze and welcome to this NXT review and opinions video. And I gotta tell you, when the show ended, I was really high on the episode. I really enjoyed the episode, but it wasn't until I sat down and kind of went through everything that I couldn't quite believe how much was in this episode. Like, if you think that we started with a casket match, the first women's casket match. We had William Regal in the corner of Lexis King. We had Bubba Ray coming out twice. We had Rob Van Dam backstage. We had Liv Morgan and Raquel. We had Rhea Ripley. We had Rhea Ripley getting beaten up. We had the in-ring debut of Zaria. We had the 10-woman tag match being made. We had, which is so much. I mean, Javon and that amazing main event, which really was so much fun. And there was more. I mean, there was loads. This thing was absolutely stacked. So, yeah, I mean, it never dragged. I really enjoyed the show. I'm just really struggling with the score. I don't know quite what to score it. I think this is one of the better episodes, but I also think next week is going to be even better when we go to the ECW arena. So score-wise, I feel like I'm feeling a 7.75. I don't know that we quite got to the hallowed 8. I don't know. I reckon I'm 7.75, but if someone bought me a drink and said, listen, come on, you're being silly, maybe I could be convinced to get to the 8. So that's kind of where I am. I'm really looking forward to getting your comments on this, though, because there's certainly a lot to talk about. So let's go through the match score, shall we? So Wendy against Tatum in that casket match, great. 62%. Then we had Charlie against Lexis in the Heritage Cup match. That was good, 97%. That's not too bad. It's high-end good. Then we had Zaria against Brinley. You lot really enjoyed this. This got great 62 as well. You lot thought that was as good as the casket match. I think the casket match is way better, but perhaps because of all the moving parts that played a part in that, because obviously it kind of led into, you know, Jordynne Grace coming down, Fatal Influence, Julia, Stephanie, and it was the in-ring debut of Zaria as well. So I'm thinking that probably played a part. Then we had Nikita against Kelani. This was good, 98%. So again, high-end good. And then our main event, Javon and Cedric taking on Axiom and Nathan Frazier, aka Fraxium. This was good one. No. Sorry. This was great. Great 78%. I hadn't worked that one out in advance, so I had to just try and do it, and I got it wrong. So it was great 78%. So that means that the main event rightfully was the highest rated match on the show, and rightfully so. I enjoyed it so much that I honestly wouldn't be shocked if that ends up in the top 10 NXT TV matches of the year. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was really, really good. So, yes, main event, great 78%. We will have a look and see what you lot scored the show. We've got that queued up. But let's get into your thoughts, shall we? We've had 28 responses. So let's get straight into it. Princess Kutab Itch said, "Don't kill me." You know me. I'm all cuddly and soft. I ain't going to kill anyone. But I missed most of it. I had stuff to do around the house. That's fine. No problems. No issue. Nick Butcher, Kim's Chains on YouTube, said, "I fell asleep for most of the show." You're a disgrace! The Wendy Choo versus Tatum Paxley match was awesome. The trick segment was awesome. The highlight for me was the 10-woman brawl. That was all time. Vic Joseph is definitely right. NXT definitely does have the best women's division in wrestling. 9.95. Mitchell said, "I actually enjoyed it. The opening match was fun. I thought the main event was fun. NXT continues to be my favorite show of the week. 675, 725 range." Wow. Me and Mitchell are normally quite close. We're not a million miles away. If he did go 725 and I was 775, then we're not too far away. I'm thinking the Heritage Cup match wasn't quite to your taste, and I must admit it didn't blow my mind. Zaria match with Brinley was just, it was there, wasn't it? Nikita, Kelani, it was there, wasn't it? So I think those are the reasons as to why the score gets brought down. But undeniably a great opening match, a great closing match, and then some really good backstage segments and interesting developments, matches being made, which is why for me, I think I don't get to the 8s. But I think well in the 7s. Well in the 7s. So, Mitchell, shout out to you. Raymond said, I thought NXT was good. I'm going to give it a 9. Matches were very good. NXT was very enjoyable to watch. And what happened to Rhea? I just couldn't watch that part. Rhea is my favourite superstar. She didn't deserve that by Liv. But otherwise, I appreciate you, Daze, my friend. Raymond, shout out to you, my friend. Yes, it was brutal, and I think it gets extra recognition because it wasn't just, you know, Rhea was laid down in the parking lot. It wasn't just a case that she was lying on the ground. Like, they really put makeup on her to make it look like a lot of bloods, and that she'd been properly knocked around, you know. So much so that in Unseen, I don't know if you saw, but Fightful are reporting that NXT internal personnel were actually worried about how brutal that scene actually looked. So, very interesting. And look, WWE Ethan says RIP Rhea. Brady said, this week's NXT was amazing. Wendy, Choo, Tatum, Paxley and the Casket match was my match of the night. NXT tag title match was great. I'm excited for the NXT 10-woman tag match next week. Yeah, well, if you think about how good the tag match was at Halloween Havoc, now it's going to be 10-woman tag match. I mean, maybe it's going to be a bit too bloated, a bit too messy, but equally, it's just as likely that it's going to be awesome. So I agree. It's a great match. Can I just say I was shocked that they didn't use this bottom part of the casket. We spoke about how big it was, and they did both end up in it. But I honestly thought that that was going to be like a secret compartment and something was going to happen, like this would be set on fire. Because, you know, the person goes in and then they go through the false bottom. Then if you do anything to this, it doesn't matter because they're actually not in it. They're in this bottom bit. So, like, you know, a magician's kind of trick. But we didn't do anything like that. So I don't know why the bottom part of this is so big. So, yeah, that was a bit strange. As was bringing down a bed to a casket match. But the spot was really good, wasn't it? It was really good. Matthew said, NXT is consistently the most entertaining 2 hours of wrestling on TV. I believe it's because they are able to train and practice their matches without traveling. It's also because they jam as much in as possible. We've had 2 championship matches, a debut, a caskets match, and more. 10 out of 10. I agree with you. I think they're able to rehearse more. I think they're able to spend longer focusing on it. You know, if you think the superstars, they have to factor in travel, like they have to factor in like live shows and traveling around the country to those. You know, really, they don't get much time to actually prepare what they do on Raw or SmackDown much before the actual show, like maybe on the day of the show. I don't even know if they get told like a few days in advance what's going to happen. I'm sure there are bits that are given in advance, but we know under Vince all of that was getting ripped up and changed anyway. But yeah, I agree with you. I think them being there in Florida, only having this one show to worry about, even if they do live events, they're only a couple of hours up the road somewhere. Florida, you know, Jacksonville, Tampa, Miami, you know, a couple of hours you can get around Florida. So yeah, I agree. I think that's a good point. 10 out of 10, said Matthew. Cody said it was very good. Rhea getting attacked is a huge talking point. She was bloody. I thought Javon and Cedric was going to win. I did as well, actually. I really was looking at that as like they could pull the trigger here. Bubba Ray and Trick versus Holland and Paige should be decent next week. Rob Van Dam popping up was awesome. Overall, 8.5. Keep up the great work. Cody fan account, thank you, my friends. Appreciate it. Sam said, so I only saw that Liv beat down Rhea, and that's a huge dub. Also, how are you doing, Daze? I'm all right, thanks. Hope you're well. I've been really busy lately, so I've not been able to join the streams. I'm sorry. That's okay. I'm hoping to watch on Monday. Yeah, no, it's fine, but listen, you never have to apologize for that. We are here whenever you want to join us, whenever you are able to join us. And if you can't, then no dramas. You know, people have got busy lives. It is understood. Johnny said, really loved it. It felt like WWE was showing off today how amazing their female roster is. Well, yes. And we borrowed one as well, which we're hoping to get in the future. Watson said, feel like maybe NXT isn't as good a show as Raw and SmackDown, but it's getting there. The thing with NXT, it has more moments that make you pop, like Jordynne Grace, Rob Van Dam, Rhea Ripley. Raw and SmackDown don't really have moments like that, if that makes sense. That actually makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense, because I think if you take those moments out, you get left with Nikita versus Kelani. You get left with Lexis versus Charlie Dempsey which was fine. In ring was fine. I mean, I don't want to be too down on it because it was still fine and there was some nice stuff in there. But yeah, I agree. Those moments, they do just keep you engaged and they give you what I look for, which are talking points. I've said before, like, I don't want to watch a dull show. I would rather watch a really bad show. If someone said, do you want to watch just a really flat show, like, it's fine, it's got a few moments, it's all right, or do you want to watch a really bad show? I would choose the really bad show, because it's going to have way more talking points, and there's going to be way more opinion and reaction to, like, a really bad show than something that we're, like, cringing at, got our head in our hands as we're watching it. I'd rather watch that than something that's just dull. And I think you make a really good point. Those little moments, they really do keep you engaged, keep the show going. Sinan said, this week's NXT was a great show. Paxley against Choo was awesome. Axiom versus Evans and Alexander was a good match. They really put the bloody in Rhea Bloody Ripley. Bubba Ray in ring return is hype. RVD versus Wes versus Javon would cook. Surprised to see Jordan. Zaria Delta is a beast. 8 out of 10, said Sinan. Wrestling fans since day one said NXT was awesome. The main event was my favorite. If I was in a room with Shawn Michaels and Triple H, I would tell them we have something special in Javon. And to answer your question, I just tagged you in a post and I said, this is interesting, and cross-followed me. Good night, Daze. Ah, there we go. So wrestling fans since day one said, how could I get cross to follow? And I went a bit bigger than that, to be honest. I was like, well, listen, if you pay him a compliment or, like, more than that, do a picture or an image or something that shows him beating up the Wyatt Six. I've no doubt he would like to retweet something like that, If you're a good artist, or, you can create some art using some software like AI or whatever, and it's got Karrion Kross punching Bo Dallas in the face, I could totally see him wanting to retweet that. And if you just put a little, any chance I can get a follow for this, king or whatever, I wouldn't be shocked if he retweeted it and then dropped you that follow. But wrestling fans since day one didn't have to do that. He just paid him a compliment. I just tagged him in a post and I said, this is interesting. So there we go. Carl said, awesome. Main event was fire. All the other matches were decent except the Zaria match. That was awful. We all knew it would be a squash, but my God, we may as well have just buried Bryn like Vinci got buried with how it went. Even Julia and Stephanie's matches weren't that one-sided, and they're international stars. Can't wait for next week's show. That should be pure fire. R.I.P. Rhea. Love the emojis. Love the emojis. Alex said, very good NXT. Rhea getting attacked by Liv and Raquel in the NXT parking lot is what the feud needed. So I hope that WWE keeps Rhea off TV for a few weeks. Bubba Ray Dudley and Trick Williams against Ethan and Ridge is going to be good. 9 out of 10. Fisticuff said, is this an NXT after Mania? There were so many moving parts. Loved it. 7.5. Way better than Raw this. Oh, God. But that's a low bar. Yeah, I agree. Although, not according to our community. Our community, I think, was very kind to Raw. Very kind. We'll look at it when we get to it. We mentioned it during the Raw review. But now we've had another 24 hours plus since Raw finished. It still seems like we've been quite kind. Real Wrestling Fan said, enjoyed it. Was interesting to see Liv and Rhea. I had a thought tonight. Do we still look at NXT as the minor leagues, as it's equal to main roster? I look at it as equal to TNA and AEW. Thoughts? I look at it as developmental slash welcome to WWE. I look at it, I don't look at it as minor league. Well, it's minor compared to Raw and SmackDown. I mean, NXT will do 650, 700,000 in the ratings, whereas SmackDown's doing 1.3, 1.4, and Raw is doing 1.4, 1.5, whatever. So, yeah, it's like half the size of those. So it's minor in that regard. It's half what the main roster's doing. But that's still quite good, actually, because it is still very competitive to AEW. But, I mean, look, AEW's, I don't know where we are with budgets, but I feel like AEW's budget is a hell of a lot bigger. As a result, AEW's ceiling is probably a lot higher, because we know that they have hit 1 million. I don't think NXT has ever hit 1 million. So, but we know that they've hit 1 million quite a few times, and they could get back there. So I think at the moment the ratings make NXT feel like it's comparable to AEW, but I think that actually if you take in maybe social media and you take in budget and you take in potential ceilings of both brands, AEW can get higher than NXT. As of right now, it's hard, isn't it? Because they've got Jericho and they've got Mercedes Moné and they've got Okada and they've got Ospreay, and we just don't have talent like that that feels like we can compete. I think I still see AEW as bigger than NXT. I would feel a bit wrong to say it, like, you know, NXT was bigger or something. So I think AEW is bigger. TNA, they've got great talent in TNA. It's just we know where they are. You know, they're around that 100,000 range. They've got good talent. I love seeing Jordynne Grace. We know they've got the Hardy Boys. So I've got NXT as bigger than TNA. But TNA is, you know, standing firm. It's got its fan base. Those fans love it. And there's a place in the world for it. So, yeah. But no, I mean, for me, minor leagues, it's not really a league. It's not really a league. I don't really see it as a league. It's a WWE developmental. I kind of feel like financially, even if it was failing and losing a bit of money, I mean, I suppose WWE could make the decision to get rid of it, but it would be unlikely because we need a developmental system. So, yeah, it's kind of hard to compare to others when it is so different. It's not a brand that the company is going to live and die by. If AEW, like, you know, suffers, I mean, that's it. AEW's dead. If TNA suffers, TNA's dead. If NXT suffers, WWE's fine. So that's why it's different. Samito said, NXT was super fun. Like, I always expect Tatum and Wendy. Tatum and Wendy, add Wyndham on the brain, was a fun start to the show. I have a minor crush on Tatum. The 5-on-5 women's is pretty chill. Tag team main event was fire. I was waiting for them to turn on each other, but apparently not yet. Cheers, 8 out of 10. Samito, cheers, my friend. Chris said, Evening Daze. Now that was a fun watch. The show flew by. 9 out of 10. Who knows? Maybe after that horrible Raw last night, they could learn something from NXT. Storyline progression. Really looking forward to that 10 women's tag next week. Rhea could be dead. Spurs Gamer said, one of the best NXT episodes this year. Perfect combination of backstage story and good matches. Women's division is absolutely carrying the brand, and everything was absolutely perfect. Loved the segment with Rhea in the locker room. This was fire. 11 out of 10 stars. Wes said it was good. Phoenix Maximus said the women's division is absolutely stacked. Bubba Ray added some real next level work to this angle. The Rhea part, Liv is in real danger. Alan said, as kids would say, cinema, 8.5. Logan said, Daze, great. NXT, my rating will be 10 out of 10. WWE Women's Division is best. And Julia and Stephanie Vacour, Jordynne Grace, Delta, Roxanne Perez, Cora Jades, all debut in Raw or SmackDown. 2 world titles, tag titles. One problem, no women's mid-card title. I think we're a long way off all of them coming up. I don't see them all coming up at the same time. I think that we will bring... I think, Roxanne will make her way up probably first. She's been there the longest. Cora has had injuries. I think she's a little bit further down, like a little bit further behind. Delta's only just arrived. Jordynne Grace hasn't even arrived. Julia, Stephanie, not sure when they get called up. I mean, if we call up Roxanne, Julia, Stephanie after WrestleMania, I won't be massively shocked. But I don't know. I can't see it being before. But yeah, they don't need long in NXT. They don't need long. So, yeah, there are rumours of women's mid-card titles. I'm sure they are on the way. Brendan said Chris Bay has issued a statement. I heard he got injured, but I've not seen any updates. So I'll have to just have a little look at that after. El Patata said, if I was Sean, I would book a best of 7, like we've had with Mello and Andrade, but for each of the 10 women. That way, I'm never giving them away to Triple H. Bangers until 2030. Great opener and main event all time. What, so you would just keep cycling through all the different 10 women having best of 7 series? And that would be your sneaky little plan to keep them all in NXT till 2030? I see you. I see you. It's all day oos. Said Cedric and Javon should have won those tag titles, but overall, it was a great show. John Elite said the casket match was enjoyable. Cool attires tonight. Brutal Lego spot during the casket match. Nice to see Rob Van Dam and Bubba tonight. Really awesome seeing Rhea and Zaria on screen together, as well as Jordynne Grace back. I like Nathan's Deadpool-inspired attire. I didn't even notice. But then I struggle with all of that because I don't watch superhero films. In fact, I don't really watch films in general. So people will see things and be like, oh my God, that's inspired by such and such, and it just doesn't register with me. So this is a very difficult time of year for me. I'm not bad with like horror references. I'm all right at picking up on those, but yeah, I can struggle with certainly the anime things. If there's any anime, I'm dead. I haven't got a clue. Right, but I'll tell you what I do have a clue about, and that is these scores. So we don't want the scheduled ones. We want the published ones. And we want these. Look, this was Raw. Look at this. It's had 453 votes. 16% of people thought Raw was all time. Doesn't add up, does it? Well, it does, but I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. How did 16% of people watch that Raw and think it was one of the greatest episodes of Raw they've ever seen? How did that happen? I mean, it's kind of like above Halloween Havoc. Look, single digit, single digit, single digit, single digit. Yeah, all of a sudden we get what I think was a really bad Raw. What a lot of people seem to say and agree was a bad Raw. And then it gets this kind of flipping score. And look, great. 43%. It's wild, isn't it? I really thought it was going to be one of these that took the victory. But it's great that's getting the nods. It's weird. It's just weird. I don't understand. But let's have a look at NXT, shall we? So, greats, 51%. All-time, 15%. So, I mean, if we add those two together, we get great 66%, right? Because clearly these people think it's great as well. They thought it was even better, but it is great that won. So, great plus whatever's above, that gives us our score. Great 66. So this one would be great 59. Great 59. Great 66. So this one was better. NXT was better, but only by about 7%. Yeah, I would have said it was wider than that personally, but So there we go. That is where the score is at the moment. That is how it compares to Raw. So thanks a lot for watching. Appreciate the support. Don't forget we will be back later with another Unseen. And we'll be back on Friday, but it's a weird show because it's on early in the UK. It's awful. They do this quite a bit, but because it's a taped show, it means that they're going to show it not in the middle of the night here like usual. It's going to be on at a much more reasonable time. So that's going to mess up our watch along on Friday. So that sucks. And then we are live for Crown Jewel. Crown Jewel, there won't be any disruption. So lovely. I wonder if that will affect things or change things when we go to Netflix. Oh, I hope not. I hope not. Surely it's going to just, hopefully they just run them all just live. But when there's a taped episode, I wonder if they'll keep doing that and they'll air it early on Netflix. I don't know. I hope not. I haven't really thought about it. But either way, we're done. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.